What's going on, guys? I wish I could say something other than what's going on, guys. It's like what every YouTuber says, but screw it. What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you guys the Shaman class. This is my personal favorite, and I cannot wait to get done with this video so I can get back into the game and keep using the skills. There's more outward videos available on this channel, so please subscribe. And if you guys like rock or metal music, check out my band from Bangkok, Thailand called In Vice Versa. Links below. Okay, so the Shaman trainer, or the Necromancer, whatever you guys call it, can be found in Chersonese. And what you have to do is, if you're coming from Siertso, you basically need to take this path down here towards Mount Conflux, come all the way around, up over here to this thing called the fort right here. And it's actually the Ghost Pass. And you have to run through that, and once you figure out how to run through that, then you come up here, go across a bridge, and over here is a tower that looks like this. And you're going to run up to it, climb the ladder, and you are at the Shaman trainer. Okay, we are now at the Cabal Hermit, who is the Shaman trainer, up in the tower. Now I'm going to show you guys what each skill looks like in and out of combat, and we're going to talk about all the skills as well. So before we get into the skill tree, there's something that you guys need to find in each zone of the game called wind altars. In the little clips that I'm going to show you, I keep calling them wind towers, but ignore that. They're called wind altars. So a couple of the skills within the Shaman tree require the wind altar to be activated in each zone. Now there's one in each zone. Once you activate it one time, you do not have to activate it again. So I'm going to show you guys now a couple clips of where the wind altars are, and you guys can find them, activate them, and you're good to go. Okay, so the Cabal Wind Tower in the Hallowed Marsh is right off the main road, and I will mark it in red. If you're coming from Chersonese, you can't miss it. The Cabal Wind Tower in the Endmerker Forest is inside the city of Berg, and you can see it right here on the map. And it's right near the Hunter Trainer, but it's up on a hill, so you kind of have to go up towards the Sage Trainer on the top level and come around a little path, and you end up right here at the Wind Tower. The Cabal Wind Tower in the desert is all the way up here to the north, up here. You gotta go across this little bridge right here. Then there's a tower with a ladder. That's not the one. There's an enemy inside that one, and there's also a chest. But right to the right, there's this little dinky one that's covered in sand, and that's the one you want to activate. The Chersonese Wind Tower is up in the top right corner of the map, right next to where the actual Shaman trainer is. Let's take a look at the skill tree now.
Excellent. Now listen to me.
Okay, I usually start in the bottom left and work my way up, but we're going to start up here at the 600 silver skill called Sigil of Wind. Now this skill does nothing on its own besides create an animation in a circle around you, but it makes a lot of other spells in the game have additional effects and become much more powerful. So we're going to start with this one. It costs 10 mana and is on a 100-second cooldown. It does require an activated wind altar, which I just showed you guys how to do that. And what you do is create a magical circle on the ground. Certain skills have additional effects when cast within this circle. First, I'm going to show you guys what the Sigil of Wind looks like on its own outside of combat. So there's a lot of skills and spells in the game that have an effect when you're inside a sigil. One of the most basic spells that you get once you obtain your mana bar is the Spark spell. So if you cast the Spark spell on its own, it just kind of does this little dinky animation. It's not powerful at all, and you can light your campfire, and that's basically it. If you cast it within the Sigil of Wind, you do an AoE lightning attack. And it's very powerful, and the cooldown's really fast on the Spark, so you can almost keep spamming it. So here's what the Spark looks like inside the Sigil of Wind. Now another skill that's not in the actual Shaman tree is the fire reload skill. So if you have a pistol and you're playing the mercenary class, or you just have a pistol in general, I found that if you shoot it within the Sigil of Wind, it becomes a lightning bullet, and it's really powerful. It's much more powerful than the regular bullet, and I'm already a mercenary class on this guy, so I'm really excited that I chose to do Shaman too, because I'm going to be able to fire lightning bullets now that are super powerful. The third skill that is actually in the Shaman tree itself that is affected by the Sigil of Wind is called the Mana Push, and it's in the bottom right here, and it costs 5 mana to use and has a 15-second cooldown. It reads as, spell which inflicts no damage but has high impact in a wide area in front of the caster. Can be combined with other spells for powerful effects. So when you cast Mana Push on its own, it kind of does a hand animation in front of you, and it will knock your enemy's impact bar down, dealing no damage. And it's okay, but when you cast it within the Sigil of Wind, you get a much more powerful effect, and you'll knock down various targets in front of you, and almost all the time they get knocked down because it's so powerful within the Sigil of Wind. Like it says, it does no damage, but it does wreck your enemy's impact bar. And it gives you time to now either load your gun or cast an animation for another spell without the enemy swinging at you. So here's what Mana Push looks like on its own outside of combat, and then here's what Mana Push also looks like when you're in combat within the Sigil of Wind. The other skill that's within the Shaman tree that has an effect within the Sigil of Wind is the very top skill called Conjure. This one costs 600 silver. This is a super powerful attack when you cast it within the Sigil of Wind. So Conjure, let me read the description right now. Mana cost is 10, the cooldown is 8. It's a spell which does nothing on its own but can be combined with other abilities. So if you use Conjure and you're standing within the Sigil of Wind, you do a massive AoE lightning attack, and it does a lot of damage, and it also tends to knock down your target as well. So it's super powerful. It's kind of like the spark inside the Sigil of Wind, except much more powerful. However, it does require maybe a couple second animation to cast, so sometimes you might want to start off with like a Mana Push to knock your target down before you cast Conjure. So here's what Conjure looks like cast within the Sigil of Wind. Okay, so we're going to come back to Conjure in a second, because Conjure also has another effect, which does the Necromancer type abilities that I'm sure most people are very interested in doing. But in order to use this Necromancer type skill, you have to use the skill here in the bottom left of the tree, which costs, I believe, 50 silver, called Reveal Soul. So Reveal Soul is a mana cost of 5, it has a cooldown of 5 seconds. Reveal the bluish soul orb left by deceased thieves and adventurers. Certain spells must be cast in proximity to a soul. So you can only use Reveal Soul on humanoid type enemies. You can't use it on a lobster, you can't use it on a hyena. You have to use it on a thief, an adventurer, or a bandit, or something like that. Basically, after you kill the humanoid, you go near their body, cast Reveal Soul, and a bluish orb is going to rise up from their body and float there. And that's basically all the Reveal Soul does, is allow that bluish orb to float above their body so you can see it. Now, once you have cast Reveal Soul and you can see the blue orb, then you can cast 2 spells. One is Spark. So if you cast Spark to a Reveal Soul, it's going to replenish a lot of your mana. So I will show an example of this right now. Here goes Reveal Soul. I got 2 dead humanoid enemies right here. And this soul has now been revealed, and I'm going to use Spark on it and take a look at my mana bar in the bottom left. Now my mana bar just filled all the way up to what my max was at the time. That's very useful to have just to replenish your mana and not need a potion. The really cool spell is when you cast Conjure after you've cast Reveal Soul. So Conjure will now create an elemental ghost undead enemy to fight by your side for 300 seconds, I believe. And this is just super good because it kind of allows your ghost to tank for you while you cast spells, especially if you're a ranged spellcaster or a ranged physical damage type player. Here goes Conjure, really close to the soul. And now we got a little minion fighting at our side. The skeleton's pretty slow, so you can't really sprint too far ahead of him. You kind of have to run at a normal pace. So that skill is just really cool, and whenever you have a dead humanoid near you, you might as well summon the skeleton to fight by your side, and all your friends will think you're cool if they're not shamans themselves. So let's go to the bottom of the tree now. The only other skill on the bottom that we haven't talked about is called Call to Elements. So the mana cost is 5 and the cooldown is 120 seconds. Grants you a boon that varies according to your location when casting this spell. Call to Elements is something that you cast whenever you go into a new area. You should get in the habit of casting it anytime you enter a dungeon or enter a new zone, because what you're going to do is cast it and it's going to give you kind of like a buff according to the area that you're in. So I will show 2 examples of this, and you guys can take a look at the status effect that it gives you within the Ghost Pass. Mist Amplified, Ethereal Damage and Resistance plus 30% for 240 seconds. Now if I were to be in the desert and cast Call to the Elements, it gives you something called Warm Amplified. So for 240 seconds your fire damage and resistance is up 30%, and you also get a cold weather defense of plus 16. And if you do it in, let's say, the marsh, it will give you plus 30% damage and resistance into lightning. Okay, now we're on the last couple skills in the Shaman tree. Let's talk about the 2 passives right here. So the one here at the bottom is called Weather Tolerance. Increase your hot and cold weather defense by 8, increase your decay resistance by 5. So this is just a nice little buff to have, and you don't have to go through the halfway breakthrough point. So if you don't even want to be a shaman, or you don't want to use the top shaman skills, then just come in here and go ahead and buy the passive. You should do that basically for all the classes in the game. Now the middle skill, the breakthrough point, which costs 500 silver, is called Shamanic Resonance. The effects of boons on you are increased. For example, a boon that increases your fire resistance by 20 would increase it by 30 instead. So having this passive ability along with Call to Elements is just basically going to make your guy a beast whenever you cast Call to Elements. Okay, and the last skill that we didn't talk about is next to Sigil of Wind. So when you're moving up the Shaman tree, you have to choose Sigil of Wind or choose Infused Wind. So Infused Wind is a mana cost of 15, cooldown 240 seconds. This skill also requires a Wind Altar to be activated. Increases the impact and attack speed of your melee weapon for 3 minutes. Your stamina burn increases more quickly, however. So I didn't choose this skill because that kind of seems like a nice buff to have if you're doing melee, and my character isn't doing much melee. But Infused Wind does sound pretty good, and if anybody has that skill, definitely comment below what it does or how well it works for you. Okay, that's it for the Shaman tree, guys, or the Necromancer tree. I just love this class so much. Out of all the classes I've played, this is my favorite by far. It goes really well with the Mercenary class. I love shooting the bullet with lightning. And if anyone has any other experiences with the Shaman skill tree that I didn't mention, or you know other spells or skills that work within the Sigil of Wind, definitely comment below. We can all learn from each other. I know you can stack sigils, people have been saying, so like you can put down Sigil of Wind and then put down the Sigil of Fire and the Sigil of Cold as well. I haven't tried that yet, but it sounds pretty cool, and I'm definitely going to give that a try soon. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe. I'm going to finish off all the other classes in Outward. I think I've done 3 or 4 already, so there's a couple more to go, and then all the class guides will be done. And I am still releasing many other Outward videos and gaming videos in general. I released a couple game reviews, and we're just getting started. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys next time.